Welcome, Sacred Her. Thank you. Greetings and welcome to Sacred HERstory podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Natasia. For today's guest speaker, Sacred Her guest speaker, we have Debbie Lambert, who is a patient and patient advocate of gadolinium. Did I say that correct? She's
Well,
going to correct me, in which she still is in her healing journey. So, welcome, Debbie. I mean, you're here and you're sharing some incredible information.
well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I know we met through Naomi and we were going to do a three-way call today, but she's just not feeling well. She's got some fasciolations going on and some voice problems and just isn't able to feel comfortable being in front of a camera or even pronunciating words currently. So it's really hard on her. And she's a great lady, a young lady, much younger than me. I'm in my 60s. I think she might be in her 30s. And she was poisoned, and I met her through the support group. And so we miss you, Naomi. Shout out to you because hopefully you'll watch this. But yeah, we're hoping she's doing better. And the healing journey from gadolinium can be traumatic. So let's jump in and I'll kind of introduce, if you don't know and your audience doesn't know, gadolinium is a toxic rare earth metal. It's not injected. It is injected into the bloodstream when you go for magnetic resonance imaging, MRIs. And of course, it's wrapped in a ligand that's intended to keep it safe. We never would inject just pure gadolinium into the bloodstream because it is so toxic. But over the 3 decades that it's been on the market, we've learned a lot. And we know that the ligand and the metal just don't play nice together. And somehow the body's being poisoned. And we're seeing lots and lots more people out there with this poisoning happening and reactions. A lot of things are, of course, on the medication guides. And yeah, it's just a growing community of people who are injured, and we're trying to figure out what to do about it next. So I appreciate being able to talk about it. I've written a book, Gadolinium Deposition and Toxicity, Humanizing a Life-Changing Event. And that's my story and 24 other patient stories. And we're living in a toxic world, and we go to the doctor because we don't feel well, and they send us for an MRI and say, let's look inside your body and see what's going on. And nobody thinks to connect the dots that this toxic rare earth metal wrapped in a ligand could be problematic, this agent, and that it is retained and that it does accumulate. The more MRIs you get with gadolinium, the more it retains and builds up in your system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of symptoms shows up? I mean, we talked about Naomi, but we didn't talk about the well, right now she's not.
Yeah. Well, the very first diagnosis, and probably the only formal diagnosis that's recognized by the medical community, remains to be nephrogenic systemic fibrosis. And I think fibrosis is a key word because when NSF first was introduced, they thought it was only with people who had bad kidneys or kidney problems. And that was the combination was the gadolinium and the kidney dysfunction was what caused NSF. Well, what we know now is, 30 years later, 500 million injections and tens of millions every year, we're learning that fibrosis can show up in any organ. And that's documented, that's well documented. And they've updated the medication guides to include this warning about, they still call it NSF. In the community, we just think of it as gadolinium iatrogenic fibrosis, and iatrogenic means that we don't really know. It's kind of means it's, I think it's just a common word for they don't know
Mm.
the root cause or whatever of the fibrosis. But we believe, and there's a lot of research, Dr. Brent Wagner and his team out of University of New Mexico have, shown that there's a problem with the ligand, and fibrosis can happen in any organ. And so we have a large patient group. There's about 14,000 in one of the groups that I'm an admin in, over 14,000. And there are some groups that have been around since before I was poisoned. I was poisoned between 2016 and 18 with 4 injections. And these people just So NSF was the first thing that was recognized and is still the only medical diagnosis that's formally recognized. But since then, we know that gadolinium causes a ton of different symptoms. Bone pain's really a big one. Burning, tingling, prickly skin, aching. The bone pain is so deep, and it's a lot of times in the long bones, and people just describe it being so painful. You can't sleep. You can't get comfortable with clothes on your body, sheets or blankets. The weight's too heavy on your bones. That's really a tough one, the bone pain. Causes dermal changes, so thickening of the skin changes color, it's painful, it's again burning, and fasciolations, and that's really a twitching thing. And a lot of people in our group have this twitching, and it just twitches uncontrollably. And some people are in wheelchairs, canes, have a hard time walking, all of those kind of things. Some of the other things is neurocognition, which is really related to brain fog, memory loss. And memory was my first issue. As a matter of fact, that's how I ended up getting my second injection. My first injection was for pancreatitis, to look at the pancreas. And when they looked at the pancreas, then I went back to work and I had horrible memory loss. I couldn't find and I tell this story a million times, haven't been able to find my way to the dog park, to the grocery store, anything. So then they sent me to an Alzheimer's specialist, and he said, well, you're too young for Alzheimer's, but let's look. Then they did a second injection. And what's interesting about this MRI situation is they don't really tell you that they're injecting a toxic rare earth metal wrapped in a ligand. Nobody really gets true informed consent. And I think if I was a patient who could make any change in the world, it would be that we have true informed consent. Whether we use it going forward or we don't, that's not up to me. But as a patient and as a consumer, I want to know what people are injecting into my body. And there's so much research out there now. And the FDA had a meeting with a bunch of gadolinium patients in 2017, and they said you should get a medication guide, but that's still not happening. There's huge gaps, and even when people are signing informed consent documents, it just says, "Are you allergic to contrast?" And people are like, "I don't know. No, I don't think so." And they sign the form. Well, that's not really informed consent. Informed consent would be the things that we're talking about. Well, this drug can cause, bone pain. It can cause all these things. And that information is not being disclosed to the patient prior to an injection. And new research, they're just not getting it. They're not getting a copy of the medication guide. And so that's really a disservice, because that doesn't allow bodily autonomy for you or for me or anyone. Because we might choose, we'd rather live with our illness than to, take the risk of a contrast that we don't know how it's going to react in our bodies. So I think that would be a big change, but a good change, right?
Yeah, real quick, can you explain what a contrast is?
Well, contrast is just the contrast agents are designed to make us glow in the dark. So it really helps the radiologist who's taking the pictures of the inside of our body, because they inject this contrast into the veins, directly into the veins, and then it travels. Then you're laying in the machine, the MRI machine, and the magnet is pounding. And we're pretty much water molecules. Our body's like, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I think like 80% water molecules. So the pounding of the magnets and the paramagnetic gadolinium in the contrast, then it travels to where the magnets are trying to take the pictures. And so then it lights up inside your body so that they can really see the internal organ and the vascular system. They can see the blood vessels and all that. So they can look for tumors. They can look for injury. They can look for all kinds of things, right? Brain bleeds, all kinds of things. And it really does create an amazing picture. But the contrast is just to show it lighting up versus darkness on the imaging machine. It saves time. So that saves money for the insurance companies and the medical industry on a whole. It makes the doctors and the radiology technologists, makes their jobs easier because they can see it right away. They don't have to take a whole bunch of different pictures and then compare them like before contrast. They'd have to, put the pictures side by side to say, is there a difference between this picture and that picture? So diagnostics improved immensely, real time, fast, all of that. Does that help?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like thinking, I go, here you go to the doctors and you go there, you trust the doctor, know what they're talking about and that they're going to help you. And here you find out you're poisoned by this stuff, and man, how devastating.
It's life changing for sure for the ones who like myself and Naomi and the 14 or 15,000 that are in this group, right? And we get 400 new members every month, either pre or being prescribed to go get one and they want to know what it's all about, or they've gone and gotten one and now they're having new and worsening symptoms and they're questioning, um, can this gadolinium be part of the problem? So
Mm,
yeah, it's and what's sad is no one will own it. When you start talking to the medical community, um, and there's all kinds of videos where they talk about it. Nobody really owns it. It's an agent. They don't really classify it a drug, even though it is under the FDA drugs. But the doctor who prescribes it and then the radiologist, they're different parts of the hospital or different parts of the medical community, right? So neither one of them want to own it. The doctor prescribed it, the radiologist injects it, or the radiology tech injects it, then the radiologist reads the report and comes up with the diagnosis. That goes back to your doctor. You see your doctor, but people don't connect the dots, right? And then if you have problems and you go back and you ask the radiologist, they're like, I don't know, follow up with your doctor. And if you ask the doctor's like, I don't know anything about that contrast agent. I just order it. They put it in you and no one will own it. And no one wants to have the larger conversations. And that's where the standoff is. I think that's where the huge standoff is, where the disconnect happens, because it puts the patient in a bad situation. And the insurance companies are like, well, we have to use it because it reduces time, it's faster, quicker, all those things. And we want to save money. So, um, you know,
mm,
they're like, yeah,
God.
let's use it. Right. But then it gets overused. And the radiology technologists are starting to see it and they're starting to hear from us, or they're joining our group because they want to learn more. And then they're horrified. They are like, I have to find a new vocation. I don't want to do this. I don't want to inject people with this. We have a few of those. We have a lot of doctors in our group who didn't ever know about gadolinium. They prescribed it for their patients and then they became a patient and then they got symptoms and side effects and they're like, oh my gosh, I
God.
had no idea, right? It's kind of sad that with in a time in the world where knowledge is so powerful and there's so much information that we're not sharing it across, should be readily available to everyone.
Right, because I've never heard of it. And I was like, I even talked to my partner about it, and he's like, what? Like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I go, I'm going to talk with these ladies. I go, this is stuff that, there's so many things that we don't know about. And like you said, it should be like told ahead of time, like, when we sign the agreement or, what do we call that?
Informed consent.
The consent. Yes.
Yeah, or the intake thing. And it's interesting because we are making a difference. Patients have been talking about this for a long time, and the functional medicine doctors are now putting it on their forms. When they get a new patient, they're putting it right on the form. Have you had imaging with contrast? If so, was it CT or MRI or whatever? So that helps them dial down and start to include that as part of, well, maybe we should test that. And functional medicine or Western medicine is just not there yet. I mean, they won't talk about it. They won't run urine tests to see if you're excreting it. They just say, well, even if you're excreting it, it doesn't say anything about your being sick, and we're just missing connecting the dots. And sadly, it's really, but we have a lot of new research, and I know we didn't go through the whole list of symptoms, but cardiovascular changes, hormone changes, chronic fatigue, and how many people are complaining of chronic fatigue, and maybe they've had imaging, maybe they haven't, but if they have, wouldn't they want to like put that in their their list of things to like start figuring it out? Difficulty regulating body temperature. It's the coldest metal on earth. It's the coldest metal on earth, and we're injecting it into humans. And it's used in nuclear power plants to cool the rods or cool the, so that's weird. It can cause edema, problems with balance, fatty liver, changes in your eye and vision. So it can hit anywhere. We kind of talked about that. Gadolinium gets injected, the magnet pounds and takes you to the place you need the picture, but then it travels everywhere. It's the same size molecule as calcium. So it's fighting with calcium. My friend likes to say that gadolinium has longer arms and it slaps the calcium out of the way, and then it takes over where the calcium would normally go. And that's why it's being stored in different places in the body.
This is so crazy. Like everything you're sharing, I'm like, wow. How has it affected you?
Well, my first thing was, memory, which I still am coming back from. 8 years later, it's still in my blood serum, my hair, my fingernails, and my urine at high levels. But my first was memory, and then I couldn't sleep. I had bone pain. I lost weight. I lost 40 pounds and couldn't eat solid foods for months. So then I had to reintroduce foods slowly, and I worked with a neurologist to reintroduce foods because that causes problems when you don't eat. Your body changes and how you absorb food. The gut health, I think most Americans have some kind of gut health problem because we're just not absorbing. And that's from a lot of different toxins, right? We have all kinds of toxins. And so they're learning so much about that, even to the point of, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about microplastics and how heavy metals play a role together or don't play nice in the body. So then I just, over the years, I've just kept a list, and my list is impossible to prove at this point. But, I have 3 new heart cardiovascular diagnoses last year. The year before, I got a fibrosis in my lungs. And the heart diagnosis, they call it hardening. The question is it really hardening or is it fibrosis? Because as I mentioned, the key word from NSF, the original diagnosis, is fibrosis. So we are seeing more and more cases of fibrosis. My liver is, the average liver is like supposed to be like 14 centimeters. Mine's almost 18 centimeters. My kidneys have got problems. So it's just showing up in lots of different places for me. And we are doing a really good job. University of New Mexico has a patient repository, and they're doing studies to help us figure all this stuff out. So anything that patients want to contribute and go there, that's helpful.
Wow, that's a lot. So how do you is there any way to recover? You said he had it for 8 years.
Yeah. That's, everybody's unique. Everybody's body's different. I do a lot. I did chelation. Dr. Richard Samalka is like a leading radiologist, and his second half of his career has been spent on helping people with chelation. A lot of the time he uses DTPA, calcium, and zinc. He's got a new book out. He does a blog. You can look him up, Dr. Richard Samalka. He has a blog, and he talks about it with patients. And chelation helped. Chelation helped me get my brain function back. And so, it's controversial. It's very controversial. Some people get really good results, others don't. I did chelation, but it's really expensive. I had to travel 9.5 hours by car or an hour and a half by plane. And then I had to stay in a hotel, travel to the facility, and, in 3 days, you're there 3 days. And so you're away from your family, you're sick, you're laying in a hotel bed, you're going back and forth between the clinic and your hotel or whatever. It's not optimal, and it's preventable. If we didn't, had I known, I would have said no. I don't want. I'll live with pancreatitis, which is what started this whole problem. I would have lived with that forever rather than this. And no one, said, "Hey, we're going to inject this nice toxic rare earth metal wrapped in a ligand, and gives us a glow in the dark picture." So I wish that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But chelation does help. People do get better. I did get better. The downside for me was then I got a whole lot of autoimmune diseases. So then part of the conversation is, does chelation really work? And it does, because you can follow the numbers as they do urine reports. As you're doing chelation, you can see your numbers going down. My number was started at 99 provoked, and that's when they put the chelator agent in the body. It jumped from 8.4 to 99. And then over the course of a year of doing chelation, it dropped to like 44. So it did drop quite a bit, but we still, then it became diminishing returns. I got my brain, back enough to function. And I was doing a lot of other things besides chelation to make that happen. And I did get tested. My brain did show injured in 4 areas. So, and this isn't all about me. I mean, I'm like one patient out of this 14,000, right? And we've got patients who are suicidal over this. They're in so much bone pain and so much brain fog and dysfunction that their families worry about them, and they convince them to go to a mental hospital or check in for their safety. And I appreciate that, but I also appreciate that a mental hospital is the least equipped to diagnose heavy metals and least educated maybe on what does heavy metal poisoning look like. And I'm sure there are some hospitals that can, but for the most part, no. And so then people get put on psychiatric drugs, and you're already toxic and you're already inflamed and all these things. Then it's just adding to your toxicity burden of your body. And they're not willing to talk to us about this. The doctors just deny, deny, deny. And that adds insult to injury when you're told you're crazy, or it's all in your head, or you're just stressed out. Your labs look normal. Well, what labs? I mean, what are you looking for? Are you looking for the metal? Did you run any labs that look for metal? No. So we had some disconnects that we have to fix. And I think that's some of what the MAHA, Make America Healthy organization with Secretary Kennedy is trying to get us to, right? They're looking at food dyes, and now they're going to look at plastics. And let's just talk about that for a minute. When I heard that they were launching a project in the microplastics. So I pulled some research papers and I did a short video about this, but it looks like the metals get absorbed into the plastics, and that gives a pathway for them to travel freely around the body. So it's just like some reports say it's an electric static kind of thing. Other reports say that the metal gets absorbed into the plastic. And then as the plastic travels around the body and lands at different places, it can cause inflammation, maybe tumors, maybe cysts. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I think we have to figure it out, right? And if you have a metal and you have plastics, and they say we all have plastics now, and it opens a pathway for these metals to travel. Well, for years, they said the metal wasn't a problem because it would find a partner on the dance floor married to another molecule, and it would just sit inert somewhere. Well, it's probably not if it's now inside the plastics or attaching to plastics and moving around. I mean, come on. This is 2026. We can do better. Sorry. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole concern now is, it's been a concern with the microplastic, and look, we have all this plastic in the ocean, like an island, a huge island of plastic bottles just seeping into the ocean, into our, to the what is it, our water animals, you know,
Yes,
animals that are in the
aquatic animals.
ocean. And for those of us who eat fish and all those things, we're eating it. So it's like, it all comes back around, right? It's this whole, what affects, outside, it's going to affect inside, So this is a huge, huge thing to be aware of and concerned of, like, what are we doing? What are we
Right.
using in every
Yeah.
aspect? What are we putting in our bodies? Like how you were just sharing, like if you knew about this was, you know, some set, this is some symptoms that can happen, to the body. And then there's that whole question of how many of us probably have it and don't even know that we do have it and suffering from chronic fatigue or, you know, um, the different things you said, memory. I feel like I have a huge memory issue. So I
I
totally,
think we all do. I mean, I hear that a lot, right? It's like, why is everyone at brain fog? And then you can go down lots of different rabbit holes when it comes to healthcare because people are like, well, it's EMF and it's 5G and it's, it's metals and it's plastics and oh my gosh, yeah. And what an honor to be living on God's planet when um we, man, have messed it up so bad. And now we have this opportunity to say, let's pause for a minute, think about our actions and how can we back this up, clean it up, make
yeah.
it better. It maybe not for me. I'm 65 and I'm super sick, but for my granddaughter, your kids, right? We have this huge opportunity. And these open dialogues will help us get there.
Yeah, and it's like not even about blame, but how do we fix this? How do we, okay, this is what happens. We know this now. So how do we prevent it from happening and hurting other people? Right.
Right. And like
And
they said, the water, and it's like it's just a vicious cycle. It is. And
yeah, it's gonna hurt all of us, it's not just, you know, some people, those
right.
people. It's all of us, right? And like
Yeah.
you shared, like, thank you for sharing your symptoms because this is your story too. But like you're including, there's like thousands of other people who are suffering through this in different ways. And Lord knows what symptoms, and you're sharing some of it, like this immense bone pain. I go, yeah, I wouldn't want to be alive. That can cause some serious mental health, but there's a reason for it. It's not because of nothing. It's because here's this a side effect or a symptom of getting poisoned by this stuff. And this is how this person is affected by it.
And our tools have to catch up, right, in medicine, because our tools and everybody gets you go for your annual and they do a CBC blood draw and they test your A1C and they test, this long list of things and they look at them all and they go, well, this one's out of balance, that one's out of balance, but eat less sugar, diet, exercise more, you'll be fine. I'll see you in 6 months. But that's really not getting to um, what caused those things in the first place.
And then there's a whole other aspect that we were talking about earlier where our food is not even food anymore.
Yes. Yes.
They're putting stuff that makes tires into our foods and stirring it and heating it up, and who knows what that does, and this is in our
Yeah. My doctor finally broke me of ice cream. I came from an ice cream family. We always had ice cream every night before bedtime and ice cream it was always. And I went to the doctor a few months back and I had been eating ice cream and she's like something's not right here and she's testing all this and she's like, are you eating ice cream? I mean, her testing tools are really so specific and unique. And she's like, I see a lot of dairy in here, and I see a lot of sugar. And what are you eating? I'm like, well, it's got to be ice cream. I'm back to eating ice cream. And she's like, okay, well, pay me now or pay me later. You ate it. Now you have to pay the price. And I left her office and my supplements for helping me get rid of all of that was over $1,000 that month. And so, and it worked. It did get my sugars leveled and all of that. But then, so she's like, I want you to, I want to help you help yourself. So I want you to research ice cream. Go and find out what's in the ice cream and the products that are in it and all that. Right. Well, it isn't, no, it isn't even, no, it's not even dairy. It's not even, no, it's all chemicals. It's all chemicals. And so
Not
I was,
ice.
yeah. So, yeah. So she did break me and my supplement bill went down too. So that was good. But
Oh, yeah, $1,000. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
That's ludicrous.
But I mean, it does. I mean, that was a real case of cause and effect. I chose to binge on ice cream for a couple months and um, it inflamed everything. And I've been fighting a cytokine storm for years. All my cytokines, 8 out of the 12 were over the top. And cytokines measure inflammation and they measure allergy and injury and all of that, right? Inflammation. And inflammation is really just a warning sign to our body to say, hey, I'm here, pay attention. No different than a fever, right? You get a fever and you pay attention, you're sick. Inflammation's the same. And so paying attention really does help. I want to be part of the solution. I feel like I am part of the solution. Um, to that point, I think I talked to you before the show.
Yeah.
One of the Living with Gadolinium Facebook pages was taken down recently. And after talking to Meta and Facebook, they said to their support line, they said, well, it wasn't any disinformation you were sharing or misinformation that you were sharing. It's more about your reach was too many. You got 252,000 views in 90 days. And then people are sharing what you're sharing. And so you're just talking about something that we're not ready to talk about is what they were saying.
That
We're putting
they're
your,
not ready, that they don't want us to know,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, your reach is too broad. You're
Mm.
reaching too many people. This is becoming, and it was coincidental with Chuck Norris's death, and he was the first person to really bring gadolinium to the forefront. His wife was poisoned, and you can look up their story. Cheryl Atkinson on Full Measure did 2 or 3 interviews with them. I've never spoken to either one of them personally, but I followed their stories, and I have a friend who um, helped with their twins when they were born in the hospital. So that's how I connected the dots back. My friend was like, she's a PhD nurse who's since passed. And she just said, you have the same symptoms Gina Norris had. I'm going to research this for you. And then she helped me connect the dots. And that's how a lot of people connect the dots is just by hearing stories like mine or Gina Norris's or whatever. And so they took down the Facebook page when I did a tribute to Chuck, thanking him for being such a valuable person in our community, because without him and Gina's story going public, who knows how long it would be before people would start questioning this toxic rare earth metal. And it's really not even that it's a toxic rare earth metal, it's that there's something wrong between the metal and the ligand that's allowing our bodies to be poisoned. And anyone, even in industry, will tell you they know gadolinium in its free form is toxic to humans, period. There's no debate about that. And so now that we know the ligand has got a problem
Mhm.
and, you know, it makes sense.
Wow. So I have another question.
Okay.
You shared so much and you can't eat ice cream. So what can you eat? Like what would a person, what does your diet look like? You know, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Well, I think the
Brain is like all over the place. Like, well, you said it's different for each person, and then I'm thinking of Naomi, bless her heart.
right.
How do you get the nutrients you need, like in her case, but
Well, and I think that's a really important question that we all should be concerned about because um, there's lots of, there's lots of theories about food, right? And diet types, whether your blood type can drive what you should eat, and um, if you're vegetarian or Mediterranean or protein, and everybody's different, and that's what makes this so hard. But for me, I try not to do anything synthetic, no heavy metals, and I read all ingredients. I do gluten-free because gluten's got a lot of things. And for a while, I thought it was only gluten-free, but then even oats causes me problems. Almonds cause me problems. And so almond flour causes problems. So it does narrow it down. So I'm a big proponent of fresh fruit, vegetables, and meats. And even the meats, we talked about that. The fish are eating the plastic or whatever. We don't know. I mean, and there'll be people who will debate you all day long that doesn't matter. But I don't know. Maybe it does.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you eat?
I eat horrible. I got kids and I'm over here chicken nuggets, and pizza. And, I've been kind of on this, world of going down the rabbit hole recently. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You mean I can't even get, those are not eggs? And I go, "Are the eggs that I have in my refrigerator eggs?" It's like I'm in this place of questioning everything where I don't want to eat anything, but there's like, ooh, that sounds so delicious right now. And I go, the most delicious thing may not even be good for me or is not good for me. Let me correct
Right?
that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And with kids, it is hard because you're they're going to games, they're in activities after school, and you're going 100 miles an hour. It's easy just to grab whatever's quick and fast and be on your way, right? But it's probably not nutritious. I can't
yeah,
even say that word. But
nutritious. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, this granola, but let me get a granola bar and get them crackers versus chips, and it's like, nope, you can't give him crackers because it got the red dye in it. You can't give him granola because the granola got all this and was made through this and this synthetic stuff was in there. And I'm like, I can't, who got time for this? And
I
I go,
know. And even like I went down, for a period of time where I was like, okay, I'll just eat yogurt and I'll put some fruit and yogurt and maybe a little granola that I make homemade or whatever that's gluten free and all these, chemical free and whatever. But then okay, plain yogurt, sure, it's got all these cultures, but if you have lemon flavored yogurt, then they say, well, okay, it has 14 grams of protein or 8 grams of protein, but it has 27 grams of sugar. Well, it's totally out of balance. Um, yeah, it's food is, I'm the wrong person to talk about food because
me too. I'm not a nutritionist, or, health guru in that factor. That probably will be the next person to come in, because it's like really, um, but then like with everything going on with your body and the different symptoms you have, it's like, is there a bigger awareness with, what you really need to put in? Because you're like, you responded to the ice cream, and I'm just like, wait a minute. But then even now, I feel like we can't even eat anything that's at the store anymore. There's
yeah,
like,
ice cream. And what first cued me in was I would wake up with sweats. I'd be just drenching wet after eating. If I had ice cream that night, I would wake up in the middle of the night and just be totally drenched 100%, just soaking wet. And I was like, what is that? And I thought, oh, it's got to be hormones, right? But as soon as I cut out the ice cream, that symptom went away. So people just have to really get in tune with their bodies. But this heavy metal is problematic. I'm trying to think about some of the things we could talk about. I think um, one of the things is we have all these new studies. For a long time, the studies kind of supported the industry as far as it was inert and it just married a molecule, and then it went over here and was stored and it wasn't a problem. Well, now we have have 27 or 28 research papers in the last 5 years that talk about mitochondria dysfunction and impaired cellular energy production, immune dysregulation, chronic inflammation, mast cell activation, and hypersensitivity syndromes. Um, Astrocyte adhesions and neurological changes, bone marrow involvement, altered hema, hemoptysis or something is the word, lanthanide metallosis, and nanoparticles. And the nanoparticles goes back to the plastics, the microplastics And we can actually see gadolinium nanoparticles in the kidneys. We have imaging now. You can see the gadolinium nanoparticles speckled like paper inside the kidneys. How healthy can be because the kidneys, the liver, that's what's supposed to be detoxing and our
Yeah.
body from all these things that we're ingesting, injecting, inhaling, and even putting on our skin, right? Our skin is the largest
Organ.
organ, and it's absorbing, and it's you sweat and it's taking it out, but then you got to dry brush and stuff to get rid of it. You can't. Then we wear plastic clothes, and so you sweat, and then you think you're sweating out toxins, but then you have these plastic clothes on, so then you reabsorb them. You don't get rid of them because at least when you wear cotton, it absorbed it. It absorbed the sweat. But now we wear plastic, and so the body reabsorbs it. It's a mess. It's a
You're,
mess.
yeah, you are just wow, because I just watched like all of a sudden I was hit by all this, like I'm over here. I can't even spit out my words right now. I was like, everything's coming so fast. On my phone, I go, the phone's definitely listening because I was just kind of talking about, the clothes. And somebody posted, oh, this is how much energy you get from this kind of clothes and this kind of clothes and that kind of clothes,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And somebody was like, oh, there's no energy in clothes. And they're like, well, think about it, like crystals, and so they're saying, linen the
Linen is the number one.
is
Yeah.
the number one, the best kind of clothes, and wool, and I go, okay. So I go, I got to get rid of all my other clothes. And I think what opened up was, all these leggings, right? The leggings that came up, and
Mhm.
I go, I wear nothing but leggings. And then I
Yep.
go, shh, darn it, I'm gonna have to throw all my leggings away. And I was just kind of like, and you don't realize because like you're saying, it's plastic, it's polyester, like there's even another one that's worse than polyester, but it's like we don't think like this is all going into our body. And I go,
Or
even
trapping it. It's just trapping it
yeah,
against you. And so you
I
can't
go,
even get rid of it. Your skin can't even act as a natural thing to get rid of stuff because yeah.
we
And,
just gotta walk around naked, forget clothes, just walk around naked
well,
now.
and that's good. Walking on the grass, we can get grounded, but then, we put crap on the grass, so the grass will be green. I don't know. But it's funny that we're talking about all these toxins, not just gadolinium, because the only reason you get gadolinium is because some other toxin made you sick or you don't feel good from some other thing, right? So you jump in the MRI machine to see what's going on. Well, maybe that's not the best. I mean, maybe we should rethink some other things, right? And
Mhm.
I don't have the answers. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't, but I would like to be helpful and figure it out. And let's not inject heavy metals that are wrapped in a ligand that's not working into humans that are already sick from other things. And some people will say it's life saving, but I'll say, well, where's the research that shows that this heavy metal saved a life? It might have extended your life because the doctor or the whatever that you're working with took the picture and they found whatever. Then they go in and they take out that tumor or whatever, right? But then what? I mean, what the metal, it doesn't, it's still in your body. The heavy metal's still in your body. The tumor's gone now and they treated that tumor. But what about the heavy metal and what is it going to cause, going forward? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I don't think we're looking at that. And so I I get tired of hearing people say that it's life saving. Well, it might extend a life. I've said that multiple times, and I would say that in court. It might extend your life, but I'm not sure it's life saving. This toxic rare earth metal is life saving. I just disagree. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, and do you have friends that are like, I don't want to know any of that. I just want to live my life and have fun and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to worry about that. Do you have friends like that?
I've been guilty of doing that myself, but it's just it gets to a point where you just can't deny it, and there's just this whole awareness of Oh, oh, because I want to educate my children as well. So I'm like, all right, linen for everyone. Let's just go buy some linen, and figure out how to sew. I got a sewing machine because I thought one day I'm gonna just make my own costumes and stuff. But nope, that sewing machine but in a box. But now I go, maybe I gotta learn how to make some pants and some shirts. And we're just gonna be just dressed in linen. I just wrap the whole thing like a little, what is it? What do you call those that the Greeks would wear? The gods and goddesses would wear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and okay, but linen wrinkles, and I just hate wrinkles. I don't know about you, but linen wrinkles, and I'm always like, so I'm gonna wear this nice linen outfit. As soon as I put it on, I sit down, and I'm just gonna, and that's vanity, right? That's
Well,
vanity,
you
right?
know what? Here's my response to that. Just wrinkle it up already, and then just wrinkle it up. Just make it wrinkled linen, and just this is how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
There's
Well,
that.
and we have, I mean, my husband and I are lucky. We're old, and we've collected, cotton shirts, cotton T-shirts from all of our travels around the world or the United States. And so he was pulling out cotton T-shirts the other day, and he's like, "We have this huge stack of cotton T-shirts, and they're 100% cotton, and they're real cotton, Debbie. They feel like cotton. Da 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 da. We should start wearing these instead of that, because then the body can sweat and absorb it and whatever." And
Yeah.
we
Or,
do.
or just
Yeah,
walk around naked
I think, yeah, that's,
as much as
I
you
don't
can.
know. I'm not sure I want anyone to see this body naked at my age, but
You
yeah.
know what?
Okay.
I think that's the whole thing. We need to learn to love and appreciate ourselves and one another and just say, you know what? This is for health reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mental health, health, physical health, I'm letting my body sweat. Yeah.
No, there's something to be said about that. And I have some great friends. I don't know if you want to mention groups, but I mean, I have friends who have like done so much research and they really understand how you have to detox the body and you have to get your gut healthy so that you can, because if you're just piling stuff in, it's just building up, right? It's building
Mhm.
up from the liver and kidneys upwards until it just chokes you to death with toxins if it's not flowing out and down and out. And that means you have to get your gut healthy. That means you have to understand food and minerals and vitamins and how the bodily systems work. I mean, I went back to school laying in bed for 11 months to get my functional nutrition license or certification. And I was laying in bed the whole time, but I had to do something. So I'm studying this to get my certificate. And I had no idea. I mean, here I am, 60 whatever woman, and I'm like, I didn't know that's how that worked to this and that connected to this, and it was eye-opening. I'm like, why aren't we teaching this in school? K through 12, if we taught that in K through 12, it would change our healthcare system, because our kids would pick up on that right away, and they'd be like, oh no, that you can't do that because that it has this impact or that impact, and it would spark interest, curiosity, and they would help us change the world, right?
Yes. And there's stuff I can say about education, but I can't.
Yeah, I am already in enough trouble with healthcare. I probably
But
shouldn't take.
what you were saying, I still feel, don't leave it, parents or, just us, we need community, really. And the community need to come together to teach one another, not just leave it for the system, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all contributing, and I know we're all tired. Young parents have jobs, they're working outside the home, they're running kids a million different places. Everybody's exhausted. So, let's do pause, let's breathe, let's rethink our priorities and yeah, right?
Just to add on to that, this whole chronic fatigue, it's like, hell yeah, we're tired. We've been working so much. When do we rest? When do we rest? And
Yeah.
I think it's like really honoring our body. Like, you know what? I need to stop. I need to breathe. I need to pause.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to share
I
with
do.
you and with the rest of the audience. I was put on administrative leave because I was so overworked and I lost it. I said some things I shouldn't have said. But I go, the time that I've had off, I've needed it. I needed it. And I feel so good right now where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got sleep finally. After we are overworked.
And we don't get sick overnight, and so we're not going to get well overnight. And like you going on administrative leave, you're forced to like rethink, relook, pause, reprioritize. I mean, that was a godsend, really, a whisper.
Like I say that, I am so grateful. Like I go, it sucks what happened, but I really had this time to get better because I was suffering from a sinus infection at the same time too and didn't even know it. But I feel like even the stress and everything was more the reason why I was suffering from what was going on with my body, or I wasn't even able to get enough rest for my body to heal. But, there's all this stuff and chronic fatigue, lack of information being given to us, the lack of knowing because we did that in community, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And I think yeah, and there's a generation of kids who are like, I don't want to buy a house. I don't want to be tied to a job. I don't want to. And I kind of have to admire that they're like rethinking. They're not just following in our footsteps. We bought our first house at 21, then we had our kids, and we did this, right? They're like, no, I don't think that model works very well for you, and so I don't want to follow that model. And I'm like, kudos to you guys. I mean, they're gonna make mistakes, and they're gonna, I mean, I don't know, you can't couch surf forever, but you know, I don't know. I mean, but life is a journey, right? We only have one body. It's a holistic body. Every part talks to every other part constantly. We do have control over what we put in our body to some extent. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would, to be honest, I will tell you this. Had I known I there's no proof, but we were drinking, it was hot summer when I got this pancreatitis, and we were drinking a lot of frozen lemonades and limeades, and we were out on the boats fishing, and we had friends over for barbecues. And I don't drink alcohol really, but sometimes I'd have one. But it wasn't really the alcohol, it was the citric acid, this lemonade and limeade. I think it upset the balance in my gut. And that's what inflamed my pancreas. I mean, there's no proof of this, right? But what I did learn years later after I was poisoned, and I'm backtracking to all these things, citric acid isn't even citric acid. I come from a produce family. Citric acid means limes, lemons, oranges. Well, citric acid isn't in food as a preservative, isn't have anything to do with those three things. It's a it's a fungus. It's a man-made fungus. It's a mold. And that's when you see citric acid on the label of a product, what that really is. And I mean, I was so taken aback by it. I called the manufacturers of all these products and I said, what is your citric acid? Is it lemon, limes, and pineapple and those kind of things? And they're like, no, it's a asparagus niger. And I was like, okay, that's exactly what I thought. Well, when I started researching Aspergillus niger, which is called citric acid on the labels of our food products, it's really this man-made fungus, which is a preservative. They're using it as a preservative, right? And it's in like, I don't want to name products, but a lot of your cola drinks, it's in a lot of them. It's in a lot of food products. And so when you read the label and then you're like, yeah. So is that what set off the pancreas? So then when I read the studies on Aspergillus nigus, I can't even pronounce it today, but
Okay.
it said causes irritable bowel syndrome. It causes pancreatitis. It causes blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why didn't anyone tell us? Why? We just trusted these agencies for the government who are supposed to be protecting us. That's what their charter says. Food and Drug Administration, and responsible to keep us safe from the products that were. Anyway, I was mad.
Yeah.
I admitted I was mad. And so there's no proof, but now I look back and I go, so did my drinking lemon lemonade and
Lemonade.
limeade frozen in the summer caused my pancreas to get all pissy. Then I injected a heavy metal, which made my body even more mad. Yeah, we're not asking the right questions. We don't have the right information. We have a lot of information, but we don't have the right information. Don't tell me citric acid on the label when it's not made of citric products.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying that because I go, well, I make lemonade out of lemons, like like fresh, and my kids, they love it.
Yeah, and you might add some sugar for flavoring, but at least you know what the ingredients are.
I like using honey, but this but then sometimes, I'm guilty of, how it came in the can and whatever. But, you know, for me being cheap, I'm like, yeah, let me just, my mom had a lemon tree, so I would just get her lemons and make all this lemonade like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're telling me the story. And then you're like, wait, citric acid that's used is actually a mold, and mold is not good for our bodies.
No,
Right?
no.
I'm just learning so much. Like these are conversations that we need to have. This is what we need to have in community. Like what are we putting in? And my conclusion with the eating, eat fresh.
Yes.
Have
Yes.
your own garden. I go, okay, all right. I gotta wait till after Mother's Day to start a garden from where I live because it recently
Yeah.
snowed a little bit last week.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, I gotta learn how I gotta go through the pain, the patience of, growing food, and this is like,
And buy from your local farmers markets. There's in our area, there's a lot of farmers markets, and there's even food delivery places or farmers who will put boxes together. And sometimes they'll deliver or you can pick them up, and they'll throw, this week we're harvesting these 5 vegetables. We'll make you a box and give you a good price. And yeah, there's lots of ways you can buy, beef that way and fish. We buy fish that way. So yeah. Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna look around here and start asking because we're out here. So my children and I, we moved to a rural area where
Where are you? What state?
well, California, we're in the mountains.
Hmm.
So we're in the mountains in a rural town. I go, yeah, let's move to a town of 5,000 people.
Do you have a grocery store?
No. Well, we got to drive at least 30 minutes to get there. So,
Well, and my husband and I are blessed. We both worked our butts off when we were younger, and we saved our money, and we own a home, and then we own a home in the mountains. And that where we have our home in the mountains, it doesn't have a grocery store. It doesn't. You take it in or take it out, or you drive like 30, 25, 30 minutes to a grocery store.
yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, it's okay. That's where I prefer to be instead of in the city. But
Yeah, I'm figuring it out. I go, I'm going to get a glass greenhouse because the plastic ones fall apart. You know,
yeah,
things that, you make a mistake, you learn from it, right? And
yeah,
so, like, here you're sharing with me, like, what you would have done different, and I'm curious, like, with the pancreatitis, right?
yeah.
Saying it
Mhm.
right? That you had, if that's something that you could have done and taken care of holistically.
Right. 100%, 100%. It could have been fixed easily. But my doctor instilled fear. I was having breakfast. He said, I was supposed to go on a business trip. And I said, oh, I just feel horrible. It's really bad. And one of my employees that reported to me at work, her mom had just passed of a heart attack. And I had this horrible pain in my back. So my whole team was like, you're having a heart attack. Go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. I'm
And
like,
your
I'm
heart.
not having a heart attack. And I'm not. And they're like, but go to the doctor anyway. So I did agree to go to the doctor. When I went to the doctor, I said, I'm supposed to go on this business trip Monday. He's like, just go on your trip. We'll run some blood and see what's happening. Well, then he calls me on Saturday morning and he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm eating breakfast with a friend. He said, don't take another bite. He said, your pancreas is so inflamed. I haven't seen numbers this high in forever on a patient. He goes, you got to go to the ER right away. Just get out of wherever you are and go to the ER. And I was told my friend, well, that's weird. I guess I'll go home and Dr. Google this. And so I went home and Dr. Googled it and I ended up in the hospital for 5 days. And that's when I got the first injection of MRI contrast so they could look at the pancreas. And yeah, you learn as you go, but I could have done so many different things, right? I could have cut out that limeade and
The
whatever. I mean,
citric acid.
yeah. So we do. There's a lot we can do. We can keep journals. We can get a buddy and do a buddy check with each other. How are you doing on your, whatever. And I was working out 4 or 5 days a week. I was getting up at 4 in the morning and going to the gym. I was in good shape. So there was, but I think everybody's journey is different and we just have to take accountability, you
Yeah.
know, and get a buddy. I think the buddy system, I even tell that people in the GAD group, get a buddy who's on the journey with you to heal. You guys can keep each other in check. You can talk about your symptoms, help each other figure out what to do. Chelation's one thing and supplementation's another, and all different kinds of things that we can do to detox and regenerate ourselves because our body wants to heal. It does. But sometimes it just can't.
What is chelation? I meant to ask that earlier.
Chelation is a product that the chelator is like a cage, and it goes in and it grabs the metal and it encapsulates it, and then it carries it all the way out of the body, right? Um,
Mm,
but it has to be, each chelator has its own special unique properties. So a chelator that someone might take for lead poisoning versus gadolinium poisoning is very different because of the handles. And I'm not an expert, I'm not a chemist, but my understanding in layman terms is this chelator is a cage. It grabs the metal or the intruder and then it carries it out of the body. If it's strong enough and it binds to the chelator binds to the element that it's trying to excrete and can hang on to it all the way out, that's great. You can get rid of it. But what happens is a lot of chelators are weak chelators, and so they'll let go of it. They'll grab it and start pulling it out of the body. Then they'll let go of it and it'll redistribute somewhere else. The foreigner will redistribute. So that's why it's really important that people, I would say heavy metals, gadolinium especially, but a lot of, they're not DIY projects. They're just not. We really need more toxicologists. So if you're a student and you're wanting to go to school and make a lot of money, go into biochemistry, go into toxicology. That's where we can get more people in the world working and helping us figure this stuff out.
I have 3 little ones. I'll tell them. One of you
Yeah,
guys will get it.
yeah, no, I'm serious. That's the only way we're going to figure this out. And so chelators grab it, they pull it out, or they let go of it in the middle and then it redistributes. And then, it's a free for all. Are you going to get sick again or worse or set up inflammation, a cytokine storm, whatever? Those are all unanswered questions, right? But I think the number one thing is try to be as healthy as you can and just don't go to the doctor for a quick fix and jump in a imaging machine to see what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Thank you for that. Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm not giving medical advice, and I'm not a doctor. Please, I'm not
neither
giving
am
anyone
I.
medical advice.
We're not giving medical advice. We're just talking about our stories
That's right. That's
and what
right.
we see, right? We're connecting the dots here.
Yeah, connecting the dots. And there's a lot of sick people, and we probably should end. I know we're over an hour, but what is it, like 76.4% of Americans have at least one chronic illness, according to Secretary Kennedy. We can do better. Come on, people. We're smart. We're smart.
Yeah, we're smart. We're just in denial, many of us. That, that's the
That's because we're all busy.
too busy, right? We need to slow down somehow,
Yeah.
best way we can. But before we close, Debbie, you shared so many good things with us and
Thank you.
wisdom and just awareness. What is something that you would like to share that's in your heart that you feel is important for those who are listening, to have awareness to?
Mhm. There is no such thing as a quick fix or a free lunch. Everything is it's all connected, it all matters, and everything you put in your body has an impact of some kind. So be more picky. Be pickier about what you put in your body.
Ugh. And this is part of self-love, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It is self love. when your body is a vessel and it's you know, I know not everyone's religious and everyone has a different God and whatever. I'm not here to preach that, but this is a vessel that is intended to carry us from birth until we leave this earth. Um, we wouldn't treat it, I mean, we wouldn't treat it the way we treat it if we really believed that.
Mm,
So,
thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for having me. Thank you for chatting with me. This was a fun interview because we didn't just hammer on gadolinium, even though that is my passion and purpose. But I meet cancer patients all the time, and they're telling me that they're not able, they didn't know that the gadolinium might be impacting them. They thought it was their cancer drugs, and now they know different. So,
Wow. Talk about awareness here. Well, everyone, I hope everything that was shared here brought awareness. And to hear more and learn more and connect with Debbie, her information will be in the description below. Until that next time, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to Sacred HERstory podcast to hear more stories of women and to bring awareness, and use stories as medicine. And also for Debbie, thank you for joining us and being here, sharing your story, your truth, your passion, um, your heart. Thank you. Thank you for being
well,
here.
thank you, and blessings to you and your family. Those little ones are important, so spend time with them, and yeah,
Thank
family's important. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Well, for she is sacred, her sacred, highly exalted rebel. It's saying yes to yourself. Until next time, everyone, be blessed.